Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast, a space for nurturing the ecosystem of business, body, and living. What would it be like if you gave your body a leadership role in your business and chose greater happiness every day? These are the conditions that create a healthy biome and a thriving business. I'm your host, Heather Nichols, and I'm so happy you're here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast. I'm coming to you today from Mexico, my beautiful home here in Mexico in La Manzanilla. And I really wanted, there's like jungle all out here where I'm looking, and I really wanted to have the jungle be my background and the ocean over there. But I was very backlit. So you have to see my window instead. You can see the jungle in the reflection. I was like, this is not going to work. I don't have any fancy lights down here with me. So here we are. But I wanted to talk today about something that I've learned from Access Consciousness and Gary Douglas, which is this idea that, so Gary Douglas is the founder of Access Consciousness, and this idea that the only thing that a successful business requires is change. And that is so contrary to what most people think of when they do business. Like there's really a lot of points of view around like there needs to be consistency, there needs to be like dependability, reliability, and all these interesting points of view. And absolutely, like it doesn't mean to not follow through on what you say you're going to do. That's something different. That is absolutely, I think in life, period, keeping your word and following through on what you say you're going to do is very important, and to create a greater future for you and for the people that you interact with. But, business from an access consciousness perspective is way more of a creative playground. It's a vehicle for allowing your creations to get into the world. And money comes as a result of that. It's sort of it is a byproduct of creation. It's a byproduct of engagement. It's a byproduct of creating a greater future and, being in the world in a different way and interacting with people in a different way. And so many people see, like, they have this sort of like, they look for a formula of like how I need to do it. They duplicate everybody else, how everybody else does it. And they, try to plug things in, but there's no addressing like the unique offerings, the unique energies, of the people engaged with the business, running the business, the customers, the clients. So there's a real sense of, in this reality in our world as we know it, like there's just such a sense of like trying to fit into an existing form and structure. And I never imagined that I would do business because I just had no desire to do that. I really could never see myself as like a business person because I don't like to do the same thing every day. I like to mix it up. I like to multitask. I like to be busy, And it's so funny because I was having a meeting with my team the other day. I had scheduled a meeting with them, and I accidentally double booked myself to have an infrared sauna at the same time. And I was like, well, I'll have the meeting from the sauna. So we have a photo of it. I'll be posting it sometime on social media, but literally did a meeting with my team from the infrared sauna. I was doing some fascia blasting that I do when I'm in the sauna. It was hilarious, but that's kind of how I roll, because I don't like to be formal with how I do business. I mean, even my podcast, I'm like, well, here we are, not the greatest background, not the greatest lighting, but oh well, I don't really care so much about, I mean, I do care about like having elegance and beauty and like gifting the world and gifting people, but I just, to me, it's like, let's be ourselves, and not have to like be so stuffy about everything. And that's part of the fluidity and the dynamism and the change that's available, that if we allow ourselves to be ourselves and to know what we know and to do what we knew. I'm like, another case in point, I don't know if you can hear, but there's definitely Mexican jungle noises happening around here. Like, the pool guy, the gardener, the motorcycle in the background. It's so, here we are. We're in a beautiful small town in the jungle on the beach in Mexico. What are you going to do? So anyway, but this idea of like, we can be ourselves and we can change all the time. And I think for me in the beginning, when I very first started with having my own business, I was in my I was in my 20s, and I had a private practice as a somatic psychotherapist in my late 20s after I finished graduate school. And I was really looking for like the formula, the right way to do it, like, please tell me what to do, how to do it, and I'll do it, and then it'll be fine. But it never really worked that way. And I also always kind of had this background noise of like seeing myself as wrong, like not having a clue how to do business, because I couldn't do it from that perspective of like the formality and not being yourself, and everybody's uptight and it's all about the money and you have to freak out about it. It's like, I was like, I just want to contribute to people. I'd like to show people a different possibility and offer people something different and be myself. And just, I always kind of had this awareness that if I could be me and know when I like create my business as a creative expression, that I would somehow be able to, that would actually allow my business to flourish. And that wasn't the messaging that I got around me, but it eventually was, because I sought it out, and I found access consciousness and the joy of business. And that was the beginning of something totally different for me. Really sort of seeing that change all the time, changing it up, is such a beautiful way of functioning, because it's when you're staying, and I don't mean, again, like erratic change, disorganized change that is, just like grasping at straws, trying to make something work. It's not about that. It's literally like when you're present with what you know and the energies and the movement of things, your business is going to require different energies at different times, different things in different moments. And we don't necessarily, you know, we don't allow for the space of that, because the energy moves so dynamically and so fast, and change in the world and in the universe happens all the time. I mean, that's exactly how the universe creates itself, is constantly changing, constantly evolving. And we don't acknowledge that. We don't put ourselves in the slipstream of that with what we're being and how we're choosing, unless you use the tools of access consciousness and joy of business and recognize yourself as a different creator, a different person, a different creature in the world. And when you do, then you really have the kind of special sauce, and you have the creative advantage, because the universe is always moving and changing. And there's all these examples of companies like Kodak. That's like kind of a classic example, that when the digital age began with cameras and photography, Kodak was basically like, we're not going to do that. Film is always going to be where it's at. We're not going to follow this little trend here. Well, lo and behold, obviously digital photography is really pretty much the standard now. And Kodak did miss out on a lot of, they were at the top of the market, and they missed out on a lot of that, what they could have captured, had they been willing to change and be aware of the future. And that's a big part of being willing to create your business from change, is the awareness of the future, and like being a steward for the future, being a steward for a greater future. And if you include that in what you do in your business, if you allow your business to be something that intentionally you're asking it to be something that contributes to a greater future, and that's part of the why for you of doing business is having and creating a greater future, a different future, then you get to have the whole universe contributing with you, creating with you, and it becomes so much more than something that is just about the money. And I think most people that are drawn to these types of conversations don't, money isn't a good enough motivator. It's not a big enough motivator for giving ourselves up and trying to fit into some box that doesn't make any sense. It's not, it's not enough. And so, and the beautiful thing is when you look to the future, you look to create a future, you look to be be a difference in the world that actually is such a contribution to people, and to the future, then there's so many energies and things that come in to support that. And money is one of them, and other people, and just like the magic of the universe, really. And if I look at like um just well okay, so a couple different things. So one of the things that allows us to have a greater connection to the future that we know we would like to create is being as different as we are. And we have this conversation in Access Consciousness about X-Men, and X-Men are kind of like, they're very different people in the world, people that function from a different perspective, have a lot of awareness, don't do a lot of linearity, have a very kind of spherical way of functioning in the world, and actually like really are able to hold a lot of futures in their awareness at one time. They're able to contribute to a greater future and nurture a greater future, and really become like be part of that, and a lot of X-Men, myself included, like I know I feel like sometimes like I'm so far in the future with what I'm creating sometimes that I have to continually ask, how far in the future am I? Is this me? Um, is this creation for the future, or is it for now? Because a lot of times we're so, like, I can think of some classes that I've tried to put on in the past that were probably like better for 5 years from now, but I have the awareness of them and I want to play with them, and I'm like, you know, and that it's like, so when you have the awareness of that and you have the questions and you're willing to look at the energy of it and know what questions to ask and have these conversations, then we can be aware of, like, we can start to use all of our awareness and all of the energies that we know and all of the dynamically changing energies that we're aware of to our advantage and relax into creation, like the long game of creation, the long game of creating a future, and how changing is constantly, like, is part of the evolution of that. And then money follows. Money is a byproduct of all of that. And so there's a couple of things that, this is kind of a very big meta conversation. And sometimes I go more micro, sometimes I go more macro. And this is definitely more macro. But it's really what I want to invite you to is starting to, or continuing to, look at what you know as like the difference that you be. And that is, there's a lot of conversations in Access Consciousness about that, and a lot of, like, in the X-Men classes, and X-Men conversations, really starting to see yourself as an energetic creature that has a lot of energetic awareness, that most X-Men tend to debilitate themselves with that difference because it doesn't fit into contextual reality. There's so much change happening all the time in this like evolving awareness that we have, that a lot of times we don't kind of know what to do with it because it feels like a lot. It feels like almost kind of like too much to handle. And that happens to me a lot, where there's so many energies. I mean, even in these podcasts where I'm like, oh my God, there's so many things I want to say, and so many things I don't know how to say because they're so energetic and fast. So with the X-Men tools, you can relax into that and start to acknowledge how differently you function. And then you start to have a way bigger access to all of those spaces and conversations and energies, so that you can really start to use them to your advantage, and relax into the difference that you are, rather than trying to fight it or judge it or make it go away. You bring it to the fore and you go, this is one of my greatest creative gifts, is my difference. My difference is one of my greatest creative gifts. If I wasn't so in everybody else's world, but I was actually willing to know everything that I know, be everything that I be, and be so different that I'm willing to change all the time from relaxation, then you become basically like an innovator of magnitude. And innovation is, I mean, that's the thing about a successful business requiring change, is innovation is so key, especially nowadays with AI and all of this kind of like, robotizing everything and AIizing everything. Our creative genius is something that AI could never do, never have, never replicate, and it will become more and more and more and more valuable. Human interaction will become more and more and more and more valuable as the future evolves. And I mean, I don't really get that AI is a sustainable thing. I think there's a lot of, we all know there's a lot of kind of dangers to it, and limitations. And I think a lot of people are aware of that. And who wants to talk to a computer? I don't, ever. Never, ever, ever. Thank you very much. I'd much rather talk to a person, or interact with a computer that's pretending to be a person. And I know when I am. I know when I'm texting, on a chat or whatever with a help desk, and it's not a person. And so, human interaction is going to become one of the most valuable things on the planet. And being ourselves and the magic of what we be, there's nothing that AI could ever do or be that would come anywhere close to that. But we have to start seeing ourselves as evolutionary creatures and seeing ourselves as the valuable products on planet Earth, and seeing ourselves as the creators of the future that we desire to have, seeing ourselves as a part of this planet, and a part of, like, a very integral, dynamic, necessary part of the planet. And as we step into that more and more, there's so much that we can facilitate the creation of. And I would say this is really, I would call this the gift of profit. Like profit is this long game, long-term vision of a greater future that includes everybody, that includes the planet, that includes the whole universe, that also includes us, because a lot of times we kind of leave ourselves out, but that's not, you can't create a greater future if you're not included. So we kind of have this long game, of like knowing what's possible, being willing to change no matter what, no matter when, to facilitate that coming into existence, and acknowledging that your unique awareness cannot be, it is your greatest asset. It truly is your greatest asset. But a lot of us don't allow ourselves to have access to that because we're so busy trying to be like everybody else, to duplicate what has been before, to fit ourselves into the context of reality, and to somehow figure out how to crack the code to make ourselves succeed. but it really is your difference, your awareness of the future, and the greatness of you as a creative creature willing to change all the time that will facilitate the movement of that into something very, very different. And so that's really what I wanted to share today and invite you to, and just invite you to start to consider, like, allow these energies to be in your world, these conversations, be in the question of, like, what is it that you know that nobody else knows? What are you aware of that nobody else is aware of? What difference are you that you've never acknowledged, that if you did acknowledge it would allow you to have and create something very, very different? What futures can be created only through you and from you? And as you start to just be with those questions, you'll have new awarenesses and different awarenesses that, like, when you ask a question like that, you have to keep it open-ended. Don't look for an answer, and allow the universe to begin to gift you then so much of the awareness that you're inviting in that is only available to you. And it is the difference that you be, it is the greatness that you be, it is the gift that you be. So I have some conversations coming up if you would like more. There's going to be a 2-day X-Men class online. It's actually over 4 days, but it's 4 short days. It's the 2-day X-Men class, Disabilities or Abilities. We're going to be focusing on going beyond your psychic abilities with the world. I did a podcast about that last week. You can check that out if you want more about that. That's January 29th. And then there's also going to be my Generative Business Pods, which is a program that I developed really to facilitate people and support people who are asking to be the gift and the tools of Access Consciousness, like, to live them, to create from them and as them, to live them, to have the beauty of the tools, and to really create from the difference of you. And this 6-month program is it's one of the greatest gifts. It's just such a beautiful container. Lots of beautiful people contributing to each other. I mean, not even lots. It's kind of a smaller group because there's a lot of, I keep it that way. And there's a lot of, like, intimacy and connection and kind of support and facilitation into, like, greater. What do you know? What do you know? And this particular round coming up at the end of February is going to be, it's called Being the Gift of Profit. And really, profit being the creation of a greater future that includes money and profitability in your business, but really very much, like, that's the byproduct. That's the result of some being willing to be something very different. So that's coming up at the end of February. There's going to be a free call introducing people to the Generative Business Pods and to that topic on February 19th. And all of that is on my events page on my website, heathernichols.com/events. One other thing is we're going to actually be creating a new season of my podcast, and it's actually going to have a new name, going back to what I did before, but not really going back, going forward, with the creation of living, which is an energy I've been playing with for a very long time. I'm going to have a new website in the next month or two, probably, something like that. That is a real beautiful dive into the energies of relaxation, intensity, elegance, and hedonism, and really creating life as a beautiful experience meant to be lived fully in every way, in every aspect. And the creation of living is really the exploration of that. So kind of a season 2 of, or I've had many seasons. I've done radio shows and podcasts for a very long time. But new season, creation of living. And part of this whole thing of, the only thing a successful business requires is change. And if we're not changing, it gets kind of boring for those of us who like to be dynamic creators. So that's coming soon. We will keep you posted, and keep an eye out. It'll be on a different, it'll be still on my podcast page on my website, but it'll be in a different kind of, it'll have its own platform in all the places where you might be listening. So Thank you so much. And what is it that you uniquely know and be that is a gift of a greater future, a gift of profitability, a gift of the beauty that is available to us at this time, the beauty of being and the beauty of being alive, that only you know that if you would bring it, would change everything for you and the world. Thank you so much. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me for the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. For more resources, check out my website at heathernichols.com and my social media channels as well. Have a beautiful day, and remember that your business thrives when you do.